Hello and welcome to the 3Bs podcast, where we go beyond the numbers and get into what actually makes a business work. I'm your host, Stephanie Marshall, founder of ABCS UK, a multi-award-winning boutique finance and systems partner. I help business owners who've outgrown the basics bring clarity, structure and proper systems into their business so things finally feel in control. If you want more clarity, more confidence and a business that doesn't feel like constant chaos, you're in the right place. Each week we tackle real problems, answer the questions you're probably already thinking, and give you practical steps you can actually use in around 15 minutes. So if you're ready to build a better business with confidence and clarity, then let's go.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of the 3Bs podcast, your go-to place for around 15 minutes of motivation, education and inspiration to help you build a better business each week. If we haven't met before, hi, my name is Stephanie Marshall. I'm the founder of ABCS UK, a multi-award-winning boutique finance and systems partner, and I help growing businesses who have outgrown their bookkeeper move from messy, reactive finances to clear and structured numbers and systems they can actually use to run their businesses properly, because I care about the people behind the business, not just the numbers. Now, today's episode is one I wanted to record for quite a while, because when you're new in business, you tend to think that every client is a good client. Someone wants to buy, fantastic. Somebody wants a quote, amazing. I know what it feels like to get that little buzz, that shot of dopamine, those endorphins flooding your system when somebody inquires about your product or service. Now, if someone's interested in working with you, you want to sign them up immediately. But after a few years in business, you do tend to realize something important. Not every client is your client. And sometimes the clients that look like the biggest opportunity become the biggest headache. If you've listened to the 3Bs podcast before, you'll know that I talk about client red flags and right fit clients quite often on the podcast. Now, before we really get into today's episode, I want to be really clear. This isn't about judging people, and it's not about labeling people as bad clients. It's about recognizing behaviors that often lead to difficult working relationships. And the reason that this matters is because every single time you say yes to the wrong client, you're saying no to capacity, time, and energy that could have been better spent on the right one. So let's talk about the red flags that I never ignore anymore. Number one is that they want a price before they want a solution. Now, I understand why people ask for prices. It's a normal question, but there's a difference between, can you help me understand your pricing and just tell me how much it costs? The clients who are only focused on price are often the same clients who don't understand your value. This is particularly important with service-based businesses. They don't tend to care what happens, they just care what it costs. And when price is the only deciding factor for them, it becomes very difficult to build a long-term relationship. The best clients want outcomes. They want transformations. They want solutions. They want clarity, support, results, and the price matters, but it isn't the only thing that matters to them. Red flag number two is when clients come to you saying, every previous provider was terrible. Every accountant I've had before you was terrible. This one always makes me pause slightly, not stop, but just pause slightly. Because if somebody tells me my last bookkeeper was awful, okay, that can happen. Sometimes people are genuinely let down. I've experienced clients who have come to me from previous bookkeepers who were really awful. But if every previous bookkeeper was awful, every accountant was useless, every virtual assistant they had was incompetent, and every marketing person they've ever dealt with was terrible, that's when I start paying attention, because eventually the common denominator becomes interesting. The issue wasn't the service provider. Sometimes the expectations weren't realistic and the client themselves were the issue. And that usually becomes apparent very quickly when talking to a potential new client. Red flag number three, everything is urgent. You know the type I'm talking about. Everything needs doing immediately. Everything is an emergency. Everything that they have should be top priority. And every email is followed up within 20 minutes if you haven't replied. Every request is marked as urgent. Now, occasionally there are genuine emergencies. In the bookkeeping and accountancy world, we have very strict deadlines we have to adhere to, whether that's payroll, VAT, tax compliance. But if everything is urgent, nothing is actually urgent. If everything's held to the same urgency. Businesses run better when priorities exist. 110%. But clients who create unnecessary urgency usually create unnecessary stress too. Red flag number 4. They don't respect boundaries. Now, this is one I learned the hard way. You know the client I'm talking about, the one who messages at 10 p.m., the one who sends multiple WhatsApps on a Sunday that usually starts with, I know this is a Sunday, but. The client who contacts you through every possible channel all at once. You've got a WhatsApp, you've got a DM on Instagram, you've got an email, and then they try to call you as well. Maybe they're sending a carrier pigeon. Well, okay, maybe not a carrier pigeon, but you get the idea. And the issue isn't necessarily the message itself, it's the expectation that sits behind that. Because if somebody expects unlimited access to you from day one, that expectation rarely improves later on. If anything, they become even more entitled. It's really important to know that boundaries don't damage client relationships. They protect. Red flag number 5. They don't value deadlines. This is particularly relevant in finance because deadlines matter. Tax deadlines matter, VAT deadlines matter, payroll deadlines matter. But if somebody consistently leaves things to the very last possible moment, it creates pressure for everyone involved in the chain onwards. One of the biggest indicators of a successful client relationship is whether somebody respects the process. Not whether they're perfect, whether they engage with the process, because good outcomes require cooperation. For example, at ABCS UK, our monthly payroll clients that pay at the end of the month get an email from us at 6 o'clock on the 20th of every single month, regardless of the day of the week. It's a gentle nudge and a reminder to tell us of any changes, any new staff, any staff that have left, any new benefits that have been provided, any annual leave that was taken, any days to be taken off for sick reasons, anyone going on maternity leave, things like that. So that when we come into the office the next day or the day after that, all the information that we require to complete the payroll is there ready for us to do. If the client doesn't reply to us until the 25th, 26th of the month, it then means that the deadline is very, very tight before payday. And then that means things get rushed, and that leaves an open gap for mistakes, for human error, for things to be missed, which we don't want to happen. Red flag number 6 is, it's just a quick question. Now, before anyone panics, I love client questions. I genuinely do. I get voice notes sometimes that are like 7 minutes long. Love mini podcasts from my clients. I would much rather somebody ask me than guess. But we've all met that person whose quick questions become 30 minutes, a completely different conversation, 3 follow-up emails, and a new project that you weren't expecting. I've been that person before. I'm the first person to admit I've been that. I've just got a quick question. The issue isn't the question. The issue is the expectation that expertise should be unlimited and completely free of charge. Professional advice has value, and businesses that respect that value are usually the easiest businesses to work. Now, there's a bigger lesson here because it's interesting that most red flags aren't actually about the behavior itself, the actual thing. It's about what the behavior reveals. A late email isn't the problem, it's the expectation. A missed deadline isn't the problem, it's the pattern. A difficult conversation isn't the problem, it's how somebody responds to that. And when you start looking for patterns instead of isolated incidents, client decisions become much easier to handle. Let's flip this around because I don't want this episode to feel negative. I want to talk about green flags too. The things that make me think, yes, this is somebody I really want to work with. Green flag number 1 is that they ask good questions, not just about cost, about outcomes, about process, about results. Green flag number 2 is that they respect expertise. They understand that they're hiring a professional for a reason and that professional has spent many years training, learning, developing their skills and their expertise, and they're there to help you get your desired outcome. Green flag number 3, I love somebody who is proactive. They provide information when it's requested. They engage with recommendations and they take action. I think the biggest green flag anyone could have for me to work with us or work with me specifically is somebody who takes action. You're listening to this episode of the podcast. I will give you some homework. I always do. The whole premise of this podcast is that you get One small thing to change and implement in your business, and by next week's episode, you've seen a positive change in your business. Now, if you're the type of person that listens to this and takes action on those little points, makes those small little changes, takes action on the information you're getting, you are a big green flag. Green flag number 4 is that they communicate openly. This is one of the biggest bugbears and why there is a C in ABCS UK, because communication, I feel, is where 95% of businesses fall down. You only have to think about your children's school, your doctors, the hospitals. They are awful at communicating to us and telling us what's going on, giving us a heads up when things are taking a while. Solicitors, when you're moving house, I have found personally that solicitors are the worst. You are constantly chasing them up for information because you're just not getting any updates. People that communicate and tell us if something isn't working. People that if they're worried about something, they're going to ask about it, not sit and worry, not guess, not make assumptions. Just open that line of conversation, open that communication. It's a really big thing, and it's something that we try to do with all our clients at all times. We communicate openly. We let you know the good, the bad, the ugly. We let you know what's going on, because once you know what's happening, we can make a plan from there. Green flag number 5, they're focused on building something long term, not finding the cheapest solution today. The clients that I love to work with are those that have businesses that they are looking to grow and scale long term. If you're looking to build a bigger, better business, which I presume you are by watching or listening to this podcast, that's a big green flag to me. You want to build something long term. You want to build a legacy. Those relationships are usually the most successful in my opinion. Now let's get to the hard truth, because one of the biggest lessons I've learned in business is this. A bad client costs more than lost revenue. And this is something I've experienced time and time again, and is something I really need to start learning from. They cost time, they cost energy, they cost your confidence, and they take up all of your capacity. Sometimes they even take up your enjoyment of your business. And that's why saying no is such an important skill to learn, because every yes has a cost attached to it. The question is whether the opportunity is worth the cost. As I said earlier in the podcast, you always get one piece of homework, your one move this week to help you move your business forward. This week, I just want you to think about your current clients, your current customers, or your current projects. And I want you to ask yourself, who gives me energy? And make a note of that. That's your green flags. And make a note of who drains your energy. And it's not because they're bad people, it's because the relationship isn't working as well as it could. Then once you have that information, ask yourself what boundary, process, or conversation would improve that relationship. Sometimes the solution is not ending that relationship, it's improving how that relationship operates going forward. We're all humans, we're all fallible. Sometimes it takes a conversation, a boundary, or a process just to make things work and move them from the red flags to those green flag clients. In my experience, the best client relationships aren't built on saying yes to everything. They're built on trust, communication, boundaries, and mutual respect. When you get those things right, business becomes easier, more sustainable, more enjoyable. If this episode helped you think differently about your business, then I would love to hear from you. Make sure you're following or you've subscribed, hit that notification bell on YouTube so you don't miss the next episode of the 3Bs podcast. And if you found it useful, please do take 30 seconds to leave that review. A 5-star review means more than you could possibly imagine, and it takes you seconds. It does help more business owners find this and start running their businesses properly too. And if you're looking for a finance and systems partner who values relationships, communication, and helping business grow sustainably, that's exactly what we do at ABCS UK. All the links are in the show notes to get in touch with us, because your business deserves better. I'll see you next week for the next episode. Bye.
And that brings us to the end of another episode of the 3Bs podcast. If this has helped you think differently about your business, then it's done its job. Make sure you're following or subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. And if you found it useful, please do leave a review. It helps more business owners find this and start running their businesses properly. If you want more insights behind the scenes and the reality of what it actually takes to build a better business, come and connect with me on social media. And if you're ready to stop guessing and start running your business with clarity, structure, and confidence, your next step is just a click away, because your business deserves better. I'll see you in the next episode.